This is your Thursday Daily Delivery. I am Michael Rand. Plenty to talk about today. I'll have Phil Miller covers the Twins for the Star Tribune. He'll be on here in just a couple minutes, kind of wrapping up that season. The home part of the schedule is done. Just a few games left, and Phil cannot wait. But until that comes, kind of an offseason primer. What do they need to do to get better in 2022? Starts with pitching. Also have Carrie Tollefson on the show today, Minnesota runner, talking about this weekend's Twin Cities Marathon and all that comes with that. Enjoyed that conversation and hope you will as well. But first, quickly, what did I miss? Injury of the year, Devin Williams, pitcher for Milwaukee Brewers. Brewers clinched the other day, Sunday, clinched the NL Central title. They have 95 wins, having a really good year. Heading into the playoffs, going to need all hands on deck to try to get past whoever they are going to face. Some tough competition over there. Giants and Dodgers both have over 100 wins in the National League. Apparently, Devin Williams, in his own words, had a few drinks after the game, went home, got angry about something, and, quote, "I was a little frustrated, upset, and I punched a wall." That's how it happened. It being breaking his pitching hand. Fracture in his pitching hand after punching a wall. I got a lot of thoughts about this. Glad that he came clean, first of all. Whenever something like this happens, there's probably a temptation for an athlete to make up a story. And who knows if this is the whole story, but there's a temptation to try to blame it on something else. We famously had knuckle push-ups here with Kevin Love. Still never quite sure if that's exactly how he came to be injured. Plenty of other famous injuries in the past, but big picture, that's a blow for the Brewers. 8-2 with a 2.50 ERA, 87 strikeouts in 54 innings. Devin Williams has as kind of their top setup man, giving them a really good bullpen complement to Josh Hader, righty-lefty combo down there. So that'll be tough for the Brewers going into the postseason. So kind of one of those things you can't really believe that it happened, but it did happen. And I guess the Twins would love to have that problem of someone getting injured right before the playoffs. They don't have to worry about that at all this year. I'd like to welcome back to Daily Delivery, Phil Miller. It's been a little while since we talked Twins, Phil. Probably because for about 3 months they've been kind of playing out the string here, and the games themselves haven't been as meaningful. Kind of after the trade deadline, the games meant less and less. First of all, how you doing? How's it feel that the finish line is in sight?
It's funny because the last 2 years are all about gearing up for the playoffs. Who are they going to play? Internally, travel plans, coverage plans, and this year, I've forgotten how, without the energy of the playoffs to keep you going in September, how the season seems much longer and much more draining as you get to the end. The last few weeks, they've had a lot of games on the road, and I'm ready for the finish line. I have to say I've been counting it down for the last 12 games or so.
Well, it's almost there. Surprising to me that they've played reasonably well since the trade deadline. I think they're about 500 in August and September. You've seen some of the bad teams of the last decade really fall apart as they've kind of played out the string. Not that this is a moral victory, but two of the reasons probably that they've performed at least reasonably well in that stretch is Bailey Ober and Joe Ryan. They're the two young pitchers that you can point to in the rotation right now, and certainly not, sure things for 2022, but two guys that you've seen and say, okay, this is maybe the start of a plan for 2022. That said, there are only two guys, and they're two young guys who could easily have a regression as the league starts to figure them out. As we think about the offseason, as we think about those two bright spots on an otherwise forgettable season, how do the Twins start to put together a pitching plan for 2022? Because it doesn't seem like the starting pitching free agent market is all that robust, or at least robust in the spots the Twins might capitalize on. So how do they kind of, if they're going to try to fix this on the fly, how do they kind of navigate that piece of it?
Well, they've kind of made a habit of throwing 1 and 2 year contracts at aging pitchers. How about trying to entice Max Scherzer to Minnesota? You think the Twins would ever pony up $28-30 million a year for a superstar pitcher? That's probably just a dream. I don't think he's leaving LA, but that's you're right. The free agent market will be interesting. Their track record of bringing in guys, aging guys that might still have something left to try to turn them around, really, really cost them this year. J-Hap and Matt Shoemaker were just a huge part of the reason that this season went south early, them and coincidentally the bullpen. So you have to say Bailey Ober and now Joe Ryan are the biggest successes of the season. They have established they are big league quality and middle of the rotation big league quality. I think you pencil them in for 25 starts apiece next year, and I think you feel pretty good about it. The other 3 spots, they're going to have to figure out probably the trade market and probably deal some of the stockpile that they have now of young pitching. But it's going to have to be. It's probably the biggest off season that Derek Falvey and Thad Levine has faced as far as needing big game-changing moves around the team.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the kind of the history of how they've gone about trying to acquire pitching. The less successful route has been, you're right, the bargain bin. Maybe they hit a little bit on Michael Pineda. That has worked out to a reasonable degree when he's been healthy and available. He's been a pretty good pitcher here, I would say. But probably their more recent success story before he got hurt, obviously, was Kenta Maeda. And is he expected to miss all of next year? Is that kind of what we're thinking based on the timing of his injury and his surgery?
He's thinking not. He's optimistic. He thinks he's a good candidate for a quick bounce back. He's a good athlete. But it's, you're left with how to pencil that in. The recovery happens at its own schedule. I think they hope he can make a few starts after the All-Star break. Certainly, almost certainly not before June or July. So it's a difficult situation. You can pencil him in, you can consider him a part of the rotation in 2023, but I think you probably have to just put him out of mind next year that he's not going to be back, and anything he gives you is a bonus.
As you think about the trade market, you mentioned, dealing some of the stockpile of young pitching that a lot of which they got at the deadline and some of which they'd already developed themselves. Is that a more likely route, or do you think they would trade, position players from the major league roster right now? And, specifically, if you think of a guy like Josh Donaldson, who has played well, has had a good season, but is on a team now that is probably on a trajectory different than the one that he thought he was signing with when he did sign that 4-year deal before the 2020 season.
Yeah, the Donaldson problem is an unusual one. Nothing about him really changed. He has been the player they thought he was, outside of the stretch of injury and the unfortunate injury right at the end, so he wasn't in the playoffs. He's absolutely been what they thought he was. The trouble is the team isn't. The context has changed. He was supposed to be the piece that put them over the top, and now they're nowhere near the top, and you wonder if a team like this needs a $23 million, $22 million third baseman when they do have other candidates to move into that. Jose Miranda being the big one. The trouble is that contract is going to strike everyone as big, and I don't know how much of it they're going to be willing to eat to get something back in a trade. I can totally see him coming back next year if there's no way for them to get out from under the money they still owe him.
You mentioned Jose Miranda. It seems like they've got more corner infield options than they do shortstop options right now. And that's, in addition to trying to figure out the starting pitching and of course, the bullpen too. So all of the pitching, I guess. Shortstop is a looming question. They kind of thought they had a plan. They signed Andrelton Simmons to the 1-year contract, thinking, okay, that's the bridge to Royce Lewis. Then Royce Lewis gets hurt, misses an entire year. What do you think is it another 1-year thing? Do you think they try to just hand it to Lewis and figure 2022 is a learning year anyway? Or how do you think they try to solve shortstop next year, because it did not work this year with Simmons?
Yeah, they had it all figured, didn't they? They had it all planned out. Royce Lewis spends this year in AAA, comes up in August or September, and takes over the job. And mentored by Andrelton Simmons, it was all going to work so well. And then it snowed in Dallas, and now the Twins' luck with this is just so unfortunate. Now they have to wonder if a guy who's had serious knee surgery, is he a shortstop anymore? He was always a cross your fingers and he might be it. But yeah, another guy that they can't really count on next year. I guess the solution is to find another stopgap. I mean, I don't think Andrelton Simmons is an option anymore. It's pretty clear that he's not the hitter that they need him to be, that they need in their lineup. And the intriguing part about this offseason is that there are so many shortstops that are big time frontline shortstops available. Story from Colorado. Seager is on the market if he goes.
Semien again too, right?
Semien has been playing second base.
Okay.
But he still clearly considers himself a shortstop. He is a free agent. The talk when we were in Toronto was that he really likes it there and would like to remain a Blue Jay, but he's probably a 9-figure guy now. They're going to have to, whoever signs him is going to have to be thinking, in the neighborhood somewhere between $100 and $150 million commitment for him. He's still young, but would the Twins make that kind of commitment to a shortstop with Royce Lewis maybe in the wings, with Austin Martin having been acquired in the Barrios trade, maybe in the wings? This is, to me, the answer is to try to get by with Jorge Polanco back at shortstop. I mean, he's not an ideal shortstop, although he only 2 years ago he was the American League All-Star shortstop. He's probably not built for it. He has been a real success at second base. It's allowed him to settle in at the plate. I think that has something to do with his success there. But absent the will and the money to go get a top of the line shortstop, he might be the best stopgap possibility while they wait for one of their AAA shortstops to prove he's ready.
A couple more things for you, Phil. I think we talked about Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober. What else would you consider a success this year, or something that you can say, look at this. This is something that we want to see more of, or this is a foundational thing for 2022?
Boy, it's a short list.
It is, isn't it?
Ober and Ryan are. I mean, the biggest successes might have been the trade deadline. Austin Martin looks like it won't be long. I think he's definitely here in 2023. But the list of disappointments is so much longer. Larnach and Kirilov not getting a full year in the big leagues, not showing that they're ready. Byron Buxton, do you consider this a great year? He was great when he played. It's been a great year for Byron Buxton because he's established that that he is worth the big contract, that he's worth what someone is probably going to pay him a year from now, if not sooner. And that team might be the Twins. I think maybe they were convinced. Has it been a good year for Miguel Sano? It's been a good end of the year, and he promises that the changes he's made are permanent, but he was so terrible in April and May. He's another guy that they don't know that they can trust. So who is the success story of the year in the lineup? I guess Buxton, just for August and September, we got another look at how good the team is with him in the middle of it. But yeah, success is not a word that's going to be attached to 2021 around the Twins very much.
Last thought, I don't see much of a path unless they really just completely nail the offseason somehow with the pitching. But do you see a path where they are like at least a wild card contender in 2022? Or is this a let's get better and gear up for 2023 kind of approach at this point?
Were it me, that would be my approach, because they seem so helpless in so many games. Even in this good stretch, there are nights when if the wrong guy is on the mound, they don't seem competitive. The eye-opening thing about September to me was we went to Toronto, we went to New York. Those teams have really, really scary lineups that the Twins pitching did a reasonable job, reasonable in holding them down. By comparison, the Twins lineup, while full of potential, while having a couple of intriguing spots, they just can't match up. And the lineup is the strength of this team. It's the pitching that they have to go out and get. To me, I start thinking more about Royce Lewis and Austin Martin and try to put pieces around there. I just don't see how the pitching staff bounces back from this year. They wound up with none of the pitchers they expected in the rotation having big years, and there are, as we speak, there are 9 pitchers on the 60-day injured list. That to me kind of sums up this year. I don't see how you bounce back in 1 year from all of that.
I would tend to agree, and I hope you bounce back quickly from 2021 and get some downtime very soon. Phil Miller, good stuff. We'll chat down the road, maybe once we get into off-season hot stove talk, as they like to say.
I'm Chris Hine, Timberwolves beat writer at the Star Tribune and the first 5-time guest in daily delivery history. Thank you for listening to this podcast. This work is made possible by our Star Tribune subscribers. For unlimited access to the articles mentioned in this podcast, our coverage of Minnesota sports from pros to preps, and even all of Rand's future blog posts about how the Timberwolves should trade for players they will never get, go to startribune.com/subscribe.
Really happy to be joined on Daily Delivery today by Carrie Tollefson, longtime member of the Minnesota international running scene. Want to talk Twin Cities Marathon with Carrie. Carrie, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I mean, I'm excited. The race is right around the corner and happy to be back with everybody pounding the streets of the Twin Cities.
It is nice to be talking about the marathon again, albeit, it's a little different format this year, limited entries a little bit, and, the prize money not there, but just right off the bat, like how nice is it to have this event back? I feel like we're talking about that with a lot of different things that are now back.
Yeah, I think it's really nice. For a lot of us, the running community is like family, and we haven't seen a lot of our family members for years. It's almost 2 years that have passed since the last one. Well, it will be exactly 2 years. And so, even when we were in Duluth for Grandma's Marathon, it was so fun to see people, and maybe we aren't hugging or, doing high fives, but just seeing people that we haven't seen at the races. So I think a lot of people are ready to get out there and to hear their names be yelled and run along their family members and things like that. So I'm really excited.
Now, the last time you ran this race 2 years ago, you finished in a little under 2 hours, 52 minutes. That is very fast. I've done this race a couple times, albeit more recreationally paced than that. What are your kind of expectations going into this year with kind of a different field and, maybe a different outlook, I would imagine?
Yeah, I have every expectation to just go out and have fun.
That's a good one, which is not always easy to do at a marathon. Let's be honest.
No, it isn't. But, for me, my expectations of winning and, bringing home a paycheck and that kind of thing, that's done for. I'm not expecting that anymore, but I will have fun and race hard. Like, we're going to talk for most of the race because that's what you should be able to do for most of the marathon. But then once the hills start, once we get over to St. Thomas area, that's where the focus that I used to use the entire race when I was competing internationally, I think it'll come out. Last time I raced here, I did have fun for most of the race. And then I locked in right when we were climbing up to St. Thomas. And I almost forgot to wave at my kids. Like, I didn't even see them. And that was one spot. They were waiting for me. They were all alone right there with my husband. And my husband almost had to wake me up and say, Carrie, your kids are right here. So, I have moments where I go back to that competitive athlete, but really right now I'm just trying to have fun and to see that I can still do it.
Well, that's a good point, because you and I've been just in doing a little bit of research. You and I are like almost the exact same age. We're both 44. How have you been able to kind of maintain this level? I know distance running, you can be elite for a long time, but how have you managed to stay in this, sub 3 hour marathon, class for so long?
Well, I would have to say, so I do this thing called the Carrie Tollefson Long Run Challenge. And it is a type of training that I picked up after I had my last baby. So Greer was 10 weeks old and I started doing whatever he was in weeks, I would run in miles. So when he was 10 weeks, I'd run a 10 mile. And then I increased by 1 mile each week as he gets 1 week older. So I started doing that, and that became sort of, I don't know, I would do 2 or 3 challenges a year. So I would go from 10 miles to 20 miles. And all of a sudden I realized I was getting pretty fit off of doing this long run challenge. And so, that's kind of where it was more like, let's see if I can handle this. And now I'm using it for training. And so, there's not a real specific training that I'm doing anymore. It's just getting out the door, breathing the fresh air, having some me time, getting away from the craziness at home, but also kind of clearing my head from the craziness of work and just enjoying this beautiful place that we get to call home of Minnesota. A lot of people are like, why would you train in Minnesota? Well, it's absolutely gorgeous. We just have like 6 weeks out of the year. That's pretty tough. But so my training is just, it's sort of like, I hate to say it's my therapy, but it is. It's my fun. It's my way to get through tough times, but it's also a way for me to build confidence and tackle hard things in life.
I don't know what you're talking about with getting away from the kids. I have 3 of them, 7, 4, and 1. And running is definitely a nice little break. Although sometimes I have the 1-year-old with me. How old in weeks is you say Greer? Was that the name? Okay.
Do I need to ask Alexa or Siri?
No, it's okay. Well, I was
he is 5.5 years old.
So you're not still doing the weeks challenge with him?
I can't.
That would be like
no more. Yeah. So
we have
a 5.5-year-old, an 8-year-old, and an 11-year-old. So okay. Girl, boy.
Yeah, we go girl, boy.
Nice.
So it sounds like you're having a lot of fun. One of the people you maybe we could talk about a little bit in terms of like the running community, Maria Hauger, another one who's kind of going to be part of this race. I understand you guys have been, communicating a lot in the lead up to this. You guys hoping to have some both fun, but also some competitive fun on Sunday?
Well, this is what I told her in the text that she asked, sort of what I was going to be trying to run. And I said, well, maybe around 253 to 255. And I know that, that would be a good race for her, but I think she's a little bit fitter. So she might try to go a little faster. But I said, listen, I want to just tell you, Marie, Ben Camp, who is going to be running with me, he's my training partner. We can't discuss times because he's there with me, but I said, we're going to be having fun. We're going to be talking about politics, finances, whatever you talk about on a run.
That's fun. Talking politics is fun?
No, I hate it.
Okay.
It passes the time.
Got it. Right. Yes.
And he gets very fired up. So it's kind of fun to just let him talk and then I don't have to talk as much. So we will just be having a blast, probably talking about, funny outfits that pass us and stuff like that. So I told her, if you want to be by chatty people, come run with us. If you need it quiet, maybe go to the other side of the road. So she has an option and, sounds like she wants to hear the chatter.
Okay.
And I think we'll be there together for a little bit of it. But, Maria is such a good runner and it's so fun. I think she has 8 state championships. I have 13. She came from a different era. She's quite a bit younger than you and I are. But, just to be back in the same race with her is super fun.
Now, I've like I said, I've done this race a couple of times. I've done a few other marathons. I kind of got swept up in kind of that marathon boom that maybe happened 10, 15, even a few more years before that. Is that still like the dominant distance race, or do you feel like 10-mile, half marathon? Where are we at with what people are wanting to do right now, do you think?
Well, I think the 10-mile here everyone loves that race. I have yet to run the 10-mile.
I've done when I graduated for marathons, last time I did was 2015. I started doing the 10-mile a lot. And I tell you what, you take out the hardest parts of the marathon. That is a beautiful 10 miles right there.
Although you still have to climb.
Yeah, kind of. But you skip it's a shortcut. So it's kind of nice. Yeah, but you do have to climb. The St. Paul part is still there. You're right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the 10-mile and the half marathon distance is, getting pretty popular, but there's something about the marathon. I think it's a distance that is hard for everybody, whether you're new or you've been doing this for ages. And, just so many things can happen within the marathon. It just seems like, you can have good moments, bad moments. You work through emotions, you work through relationship stuff. Like you meet new friends. Maybe some people meet a new partner in life. Like there's just time for things to happen in the marathon. So I do think people will always kind of gravitate towards that. Now, someone like you who's been there, done that, might gravitate more back to the middle distance there of the half marathon or the 10-mile. It's a little bit more doable to train for those half marathons. You're not out there nearly as long. You can get it done before work type thing. But I like doing a marathon once every 2 to 4 years. That seems to be my rate. And I think for me, when I tackle the marathon, it's a mentality shift, having to devote myself to doing a long run one day every 7 to 10 days for 12, 16 weeks. I like that. I like feeling accomplished when I walk in the door and say, I was out there for 20 miles today. That's something hard. And I did it. So I think I'll always have 26.2 kind of lingering, but I take my time in between them.
Yeah, I feel, I don't feel like anybody who's ever done a marathon has ever definitively said they've done their last one. So you never know, right? Carrie Tollefson, enjoying this conversation. Last thing for you, just for even, the fastest runners, the beginning runners who are doing their first marathon, what's your race day advice or kind of thing that you try to keep in mind as you're running these races?
I think just keep in mind that we're all there in it together. It really is a special moment. And, you might meet somebody, like I said, and have a lifelong friendship, or you're just going to remember that conversation that you might have had with somebody along the way. But I will always cherish my marathons. I don't do that many, like I said, but enjoy it. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the ups and downs. For me, my whole career, I learned so much about perseverance. And, as a runner, it's always hard. Even our easy days are still challenging. And, when you look at that and you come back in the door and you realize, and you look at yourself in the mirror, you realize that you've still done something hard for the day, whether it's a 20-minute run or a 20-mile run, it's still an accomplishment. And, I really believe in the run. I believe in what it does for you as a person. I believe it makes you confident and powerful and compassionate. And, you're surrounding yourself with these positive, like-minded, goal-driven people. And so I can't say enough about it. You don't have to be fast. You can walk more than you run. I don't care. I'm just happy to be a part of this community.
Yeah, now I want to go do it. You stop it. You're making me want to do another one. Quit it.
Come on. Let's go.
Yeah, just no training, just my usual 4-mile runs. I'll just hop into 26. It'll be no problem. No problem. Well, good luck to you on Sunday and to everybody else that's running. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today. And have fun on Sunday, okay?
Thanks so much.
I kind of want to get out there again, you guys. It's making me kind of get that itch again. I've done 5 marathons, but the last one was in 2015. So we'll see. Do I have another one in me in some time in the future? I don't know. It's a lot to train for it. I can't just I could, but I can't just pick it up right away and then just go run a marathon. I mean, maybe I could, but I would be in extreme pain. But the training for it it takes so long. It's such a process that part of it is the part that scares me more than race day. So I don't know. If you got any marathon stories, I'd love to hear them. Hit me up at Randball on Twitter or email me, michael.rand@startribune.com, and we can commiserate about our marathon experiences. Let's finish with the cooler. Minnesota United lost 3-1 to DC United on Wednesday. Depth was a concern in that game. Maybe the alignment was a concern too. We'll talk to John Marthaler more about that on Friday's show, as well as Mark Craig's NFL picks. I'll talk to him about that as well. And some Kevin Stefanski stuff with Mark Craig too, with that big Vikings-Browns game coming up on Sunday. That'll do it for me today. Thanks for listening. I'm Michael Rand. We'll get you again on Friday.